The Broncos released their depth chart, and some fans are not happy. So let me know. Do you guys think Bo Nix should be the starter? A little bit of a teaser for what is to come, but give me your honest opinion down below in the comments section. Have you seen or heard enough from the quarterback that you believe the rookie should be the starter? So the Broncos released their first preseason depth chart, and every year it's Groundhog Day for people. We all forget, maybe not all, but some forget that it is a preseason depth chart. Do not lose sight of what preseason depth charts are. They mostly are picking up where the previous regular season ended and also putting rookies at the bottom of the totem pole to make them climb their way up and earn their spot and not just hand it to them. So you're going to see some names and faces and spots that you might not feel like are accurate from everything you've heard so far at training camp. And let me be the reminder right now, it is a preseason depth chart. Do not get too worked up over certain things. There are some surprises on this depth chart, but it ain't this first one. Jarrett Stidham as QB1. That is not a surprise to me when looking at the Broncos quarterback depth chart. What is a little bit of a surprise, though, is I know Bo Nix, a rookie, and Sean Payton pretty much put all the rookies at the bottom of the depth chart, but he has Zach Wilson at QB2 when anyone with a pair of either two eyes or just one eye at Broncos training camp would tell you Bo Nix has been better than Zach Wilson. I think Bo Nix should be QB2. I'm not going to pitch a fit over Jarrett Stidham being QB1. By a lot of accounts, Jarrett Stidham has had the slight early edge over Bo Nix, but come on. Who we kidding, Sean? I know what you're doing here. You don't want to give any rookie too much ego or feel like, hey, they don't have to work any harder. They've already risen up the depth chart. No, I understand what you're trying to accomplish, but we don't need to do that with quarterback here. Like, we know that Bo Nix has been better so far than Zach Wilson. Everyone with a pair of eyes could see it. You yourself said it. I mean, maybe not black and white, but you did not have Zach Wilson run with the first team offense when his day came up and you gave a 5 to 6 second pause when trying to think of a nice answer without crushing his confidence. So it's evident to the fans, to the media, to the coaching staff, Bo Nix has been better than Zach Wilson. So let's not play this game of, high school, don't want to put the freshman above the junior or senior. We know that Bo Nix is better. Put him above Zach Wilson. Now, when you look at the other first-round draft picks so far, here's where they stack up with their respective depth charts. Caleb Williams with the Bears is first, along with Jaden Daniels. The the Patriots and the Falcons have not announced their depth charts yet, but I'll predict right now Drake May won't be first. It'll be Jacoby Brissett, and I know Michael Penix will not be first ahead of Kirk Cousins. J.J. McCarthy is tied for second with all the other quarterbacks. It goes Sam Darnold and then everyone else at second, and then Bo Nix for Denver coming in at third. Obviously, though, the battle here is far from over, so I don't want anyone looking at this initial depth chart and think, wow, Jarrett Stidham really has pulled away and he's won the job already. No, this is fluid. This depth chart will change, not just for quarterback, but for all positions over the next couple of weeks. But for now, the Broncos are sticking with the incumbent, which is what I've been saying and preaching for a long time here on the channel. And I know some of you don't like to hear that, but that is the reality, and those are the facts right now. So with that all being said, still believe the slight edge right now favors Jarrett Stidham over Bo Nix. I think he has been a little bit, smarter with the football. They've both been relatively conservative throughout training camp, but if you're really looking to chart stats and compare the two, I think most people would agree that Stidham has looked a little bit better than Bo Nix. Doesn't mean that can't change as Bo Nix gets more experience at the NFL level, more reps and more confidence and more experience in Sean Payton's offense, but for now, it does go to the man with 4 career NFL starts versus the guy with 0. So who do you think will be the week 1 starter? Jarrett Stidham or Bo Nix? Get in the comment section below. Type the jersey number for the player you think will be week 1 in Seattle. Now, the running back depth chart actually surprised me. The first one, a little bit because of Zach Wilson, but this one I was actually surprised about. Javonte Williams, number 1, no surprise. But Samaje Perine, number 2, ahead of Jaleel McLaughlin. So we're going to talk about the running back depth chart in more detail, but I first want to tell all of our viewers about our great friends over at Game Time. If you love summer baseball and want to catch a Rockies game or any other major league team in your area, you're going to want to give Game Time a shot. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off your first purchase. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video, but download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So let's talk about the running backs for a moment, because they had Audric Estime towards the end of the depth chart, but that's been the case for all rookies, so I'm not reading much into that. But I was a little bit surprised to notice that Samaje Perine was a little bit higher up on the depth chart than I would have initially suspected, given how awesome Jaleel McLaughlin has looked so far throughout the spring and into training camp. Javonte Williams last year leading the pack, 774 yards, 3 touchdowns, an underwhelming season I think most people would agree on, but I think it's important to factor in the knee injury he was recovering from, but him 2 years removed from it into a contract year. I'm more upbeat on Pookie than I wouldn't say your average fan is, but some people are. But Jaleel McLaughlin, I think, is going to be in for a larger role than what that depth chart indicates. Why? You guys know I love history. What do I do when the fiance goes out of town? World War II in color. So what am I looking at right now? I'm looking at the top running back under Sean Payton the last 5 years in New Orleans. And you'll notice that he never really gave his top RB a crazy amount of touches. Like Alvin Kamara in 2021, after his 4th year in the NFL, finished 6th. So it took him a little while to get up there. But before that, tied for 15th. 25th, 16th, 13th. Only one running back for Sean Payton, finishing top 10 in carries in his last 5 years down in the Big Easy. So let's take it one step further now. Look at those 5 leading rushers, mostly Alvin Kamara, and then 1 year of Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram got 51% of all carries in 2017, barely getting over 50%. So while everyone right now is trying to bicker and fight over who's going to be the starter, Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, my answer is kind of a yes. Like Javonte Williams will be the starter, but he's not going to get a crazy amount of carries. He's not going to be a workhorse back. Now, Alvin Kamara is not an equal comp to Javonte Williams in play style. I think Mark Ingram's much closer to Javonte Williams, which is why I think you see Ingram get 51% of the carries, much more than Kamara, who's used also as a receiving back as well as a rusher. So my gut tells me Williams will get 55% of the carries. Jaleel McLaughlin will get 20 to 25%, and then Perine and Estime will split the remaining percentage of carries, whatever the math is. But I don't think you're going to see either Williams or Jaleel McLaughlin get a crazy amount of touches. I think it's going to be a little bit of like a fantasy football nightmare backfield. There's going to be a lot of sharing going on in the Broncos running back room. Now, before we move on to the next surprising note on the depth chart, even when I'm on PTO, I'm still giving you guys videos as much as possible, so make sure to subscribe. I don't know any other Broncos YouTuber that's giving you guys this much content, so help us reach our next little milestone. We are 23 subscribers away. Let's talk about the offensive line. No surprise for 4 out of the 5 faces, but Luke Wattenberg coming in at the starting center role ahead of Alex Forsyth, who is ahead of the veteran Sam Mustipher. I'm glad to see this offensive line depth shake out in Denver's favor. We knew that the quarterback battle would be the most intriguing training camp battle all summer long, but the diehards were also going to monitor the center battle to replace Lloyd Cushenberry. And for a while on the channel, I said, listen, they've got 2 guys with very little experience. Alex Forsyth with virtually none, 7th-round draft pick last year. Luke Wattenberg, a 5th-round draft pick 2 drafts ago. And then they brought in a veteran, Sam Mustipher, who pretty much stunk it up. Sorry, Sam, if you're watching. Back in Chicago when he was the starting center. But they had to have some insurance, policy just in case Wattenberg or Forsyth got injured or just clearly unplayable when going up against the first-team defense. but all hopes and prayers were going on Forsythe or Wattenberg, a much longer term and kind of cheaper option to be this team's starting center. So it's a bit of a relief to see one of those two longer term and cheaper options start to emerge as the starting center. Hopefully one of those two guys, for Denver's best interest, kind of like Bo Nix winning the starting job earlier rather than later, emerges and separates from the rest of the pack soon. Now, the Broncos also took the college of football approach to the inside linebacker depth chart. They had Alex Singleton, and then they were non-committal for the next one. I hate this. Just pick a name. They had Jonas Griffith or Cody Barton. They wouldn't pick one. I'll pick them. I'm thinking Cody Barton. I like Jonas Griffith. He missed all of last year, unfortunately, due to a torn ACL. That's a bummer. He was really good for a good stretch when he came over from the 49ers in a trade. But I think Cody Barton just has a little bit more experience, and I think he was signed in the offseason for a larger role than just special teams. So my gut tells me he'll ultimately emerge as the starting inside linebacker next to Alex Singleton. Cornerbacks. We know about Pat Surtain starting, but what about CB2? They had Damarri Mathis or Riley Moss. I hope and pray Riley Moss emerges as the starting corner. We saw what Damarri Mathis offered as a starting cornerback in the NFL last year. Maybe he had an awesome offseason, got in terrific shape, better shape than he was before, and we're going to see a whole new version of him. I mean, that happens every so often, but, man, if you know what you have in Damarri Mathis, and the bar ain't too high based off the first 4 or 5 weeks last year, and Riley Moss can't overcome that, what do you have in Riley Moss? Like, that's a little bit of a, whoa, wake up. We might have a serious cornerback 2 problem long term if your third-round draft pick can't overtake a starting gig from a player who had to get benched after 4 weeks into the season. Now, they do have an insurance policy with Levi Wallace, who last year I thought played pretty well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 11 PBUs, 2 interceptions. Year before that, with the Buffalo Bills, I recall, I think 4 interceptions, 13 pass breakups. Like, I'm a little surprised to see Levi Wallace not start out as the starter. My guess is Denver is hoping one of their younger players still on a rookie deal emerges and they go, okay, we can have this guy be our starter for a few more years than just a 1-year cheap veteran like Levi Wallace. But I don't think you're going to be too experimental when the regular season rolls around. At least I hope not. If neither Mathis or Moss can prove in 3 preseason games they can start at the NFL level, don't mess around. Go to Levi Wallace. And you want to know why I think you should go to Levi Wallace? Because what happened last year? The Dolphins scored 70 points. Like, that's what happens when you F around and find out. You get a 70 burger put up on you. So they've got a good veteran, Levi Wallace. If Mathis or Moss cannot prove that they are worthy of starting in the NFL, go to Wallace. Don't mess around. Now, kind of an off-the-wall question as we get towards the end of our video. What is your confidence level in Sean Payton? I was thinking about this question for 2 reasons. One, our producer today, Saints host Trace Gerard, is always upbeat about Coach Payton. But I was looking at this roster when I was combing through the depth chart, and I was thinking, if Sean Payton wasn't the head coach, and it was like Dave Canales from the Carolina Panthers, what would the overall view be on this team going into 2024? I feel like so much of the optimism, and somewhat fairly so, is tied to, well, Sean Payton's the head coach, so they can't be too bad. And you're not wrong for saying that because he never really bottomed out ever more than a 7-win season in New Orleans. But let me know what your confidence level is because I feel like a lot of Denver's success is going to be rooted in Coach Payton. All right, to wrap up today's show, some summer hot takes. It is 94 degrees today in Denver. That's the high. So a fajitas plate hot take, Pat Surtain will lead all cornerbacks in the NFL in interceptions with 5. He's talked a little bit this offseason about wanting to see an uptick in ball production after the last 2 years following a brilliant rookie campaign with 4 interceptions. So I'm thinking we see him emerge as the number 1 CB in the INT department. Give me 5 picks for PS2.